talk about my not so super special powers. I guess they're less powers than they are, and maybe there's not maybe it's just it. Extra sense, more in tuned sense. So I first started noticing this when I had a pager. So I had a pager first when I was 16. My grandma got it for me. I was living with my grandparents. My grandma just needed a way to contact me and get a hold of me, and I wanted a pager. It was a cool thing. I think they were like, it's 20 or 50 bucks a month or something like this. And this is like, you know, the later 80s. What started happening is that I would get my pages before my pager would. This is how I've always described it. People around me would witness this. Like, I would be hanging out with someone and we would be talking about whatever. And then, for no apparent reason, I would start talking about somebody. 5 seconds later, they would page me. And this just happened all the freaking time. And it's never stopped. This is 30 years of validation on this, right? But now there's way more to it. And I didn't really know anything about anything and hadn't looked into anything. All I thought was that for some reason my body is able to catch those cell phone signals. Actually, I just am like so sensitive to them that so somebody pages me and that special signal hits me, I look at their number. So then that same signal hits me again and I start thinking about that person. That's what I thought it was. And I guess that's what it could be. I honestly don't know, but there's more to it then. There's a lot more to it. It being, for the lack of a better term, I am an empath. I was hanging out with a friend of mine. We were driving and talking, and I think we were on our way to go get food someplace. We were just having a conversation with him. She looks at me funny and goes, "I think you're an empath." I'm like, what is even that? So I look into it when the girl tells me this, right? This is Alice. Alice tells me this. I look into it, and right away, like there's like pages of like signs of you know, or things that empaths do or whatever, and it's just frickin' describing me to a T. For instance, like the fact that I have always liked drastically like rock and rap and blues and some jazz, you know, like, and then all at the same time, like this next to each other, like a crazy mix. I was like, holy cow, lie detectors don't work on me. I can make people look at me that have their back to me, that are walking down, like for instance, if I'm driving in a car, I can look at people and get them to look back at me. And I also know when people are looking at me. And I'm not saying that I'm super unique. I bet there's a lot of people in the world that have these same kind of abilities. We don't ever talk about it. So, you know, at least people don't talk about empaths in the circles that I have evolved in. I look back on my childhood, and so the whole thing with the empath is like, I have, and anybody else who is an empath has, the ability to, beyond like the ability, an ability makes it sound like you have some sort of ability to like turn it on and off, which may or may not be true, but that would come with some sort of training or some shit, right? Basically, I have lived my life being bombarded with everyone else's emotions around me. It becomes a lot more understandable about some things throughout my life. There's all kinds of cool shit going on in humans. There's special humans that are totally different, that have genetics, that have abilities that you don't have. Not like there's people who are flying and shooting lasers out of their eyes or rainbows out of their buttholes. No. Special senses. People can see things that other people can't. Some people can hear things other people can't. Some people can feel things that other people can't. You know, one of the biggest travesties in the world is this line that everybody is born equal or some shit. Everybody deserves to be treated equally, But there is no truth in the statement that we are all created equally. Far from it. Some people have special abilities that other people don't have. And now, as a person that understands-ish my ability, I could just conject and tell forever, but I don't know. It's just all conjecture. It's creepy. It is creepy. It feels creepy to feel other people's shit going on. Maybe in a perfect world, like my abilities would have been identified at an early age and I would have been like trained and shit. Maybe I could read minds or who knows what. I don't even know. I bet you hundreds of years ago, people like me, being cool, living with the earth, doing their own thing, and then we're 9 million people were called a name and then killed. Apparently a bigger Holocaust was when Inquisitions killed witches. Witches most likely were empaths, right? And maybe even had some abilities and training and all this stuff. Who knows? Well, they killed them all. They're dead now. But their genetics lives on. Their knowledge, not so much though. Wouldn't that be nice to have that knowledge? All those religious people killed all those other people because they didn't think the way they thought. Religions get no say anymore because you're based in fantasy land bullshit. And I know that for a fact because I actually am tapped in to the energy field in this planet, on this planet, around this planet, however it works. Because if you know anything about energy, it's all about frequencies. There's a lot of them. There may be an infinite number of frequencies. I'm not sure about that. Some scientists were at one of the poles, and they probably are still there doing the same thing, but this moment in particular. And they were observing this certain frequency of energy that was at these poles. They were able to see it here where they weren't able to see it someplace else. On September 11th, 2001, they had this spike in that energy field. The uniqueness of that time in history. So we were really connected at World War II, at Pearl Harbor, which is where they all compare the level of attacks on the United States. The connection on the planet was worldwide, but it wasn't instantaneous. And there was nobody observing this energy field at the time. The point is this energy field or frequency or whatever you want to call it, so this energy spiked like never before, never since. And so what they witnessed was that human connection to this frequency worldwide. That, in my mind, proves that there is an energy field that connects us all throughout the planet. Anybody that was really smart and knew about electrical and energy and all this shit would argue with me. There's probably some people that are going to argue with me, and they probably have this book that has been around forever that they think is all that, and all the information is just in this book, and that's where you need to look for your answers. So I'm sure those people love to argue with me. I'm not really in the arguing mood. It's my mind's made up. I've seen my own abilities. I've researched what that whole thing is all about. I've come to the conclusion that I have a special ability, a special sense. I'm glad that Alice told me that I was an empath, or else I would have never looked it up and I would have never kind of came to a realization. I've described this to people for freaking decades. I mean, literally, it wasn't but a year or so of having a pager, and I was talking about, hey, I got your text before you even text me. It's weird. Oh, it happened again. And I'd even be standing in a room full of people, And my pager would go off, and I'd say, this is such and such, and boom, insanely high level of high percentage of correctness. I think we have a lot to learn as a species, as humans, about what's important. And I think mostly what's going on today, most of it we do is not important at all. And a lot of it's really just depressing and pathetic. People who think torture's a good idea, getting put in positions of power, war machines are just being built, and everybody wonders why we all can't have everything. Yeah, that's it. War, product obsolescence, uncontrolled childbirth. It's going to doom us all. Got to get that shit under control. Everything else will fall in line once we get these things taken care of.